Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I know today's a little bit unconventional here as we are sitting looking at a blank piece of paper. But this is the time of the year where I like to really visualize what the garden's going to look like in terms of a footprint. So I thought it would be kind of interesting to show you my process that I use when I go to plan what my garden beds are going to look like, where crops are going to go, and so forth. So I do have a limited footprint that I'm working within. You'll see here in just a moment, I'm going to sketch out my garden beds. And then I have pulled up on a screen that you guys can't see my seed variety garden seed master list. So if you watched my previous video, you would know that I utilized AI to help me build out a master list of all the seeds that I'm going to be starting and then growing in the 2026 garden season. So without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and start. So I am going to go ahead and sketch out, like I said, the space that I grow in, the garden beds as well, and then we can kind of take a closer look at where things make sense to grow, where I grew things this year, and well, this last year in 2025, and where I might want to grow them this year. So first thing first, I have my garden in kind of the back corner of my backyard here. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of roughly sketch out that space here. And I'll try to, I'm using a pencil right now, but maybe here in a little bit we'll pull some markers out to help mark the colors of things. I'm just going to kind of move my tea out of the way so I don't accidentally tip that over. I'm going to go ahead and give myself a rough estimate here. There's approximately 4 feet on the back wall from my cement slab. So I do have a cement slab right now that has one garden bed on it. This is going to be part of today's video. Is I'm going to be planning hypothetically building or buying some more garden beds to put in that space. So I just kind of want to rough sketch what that's going to look like. So you just do I'm using a graph paper. I like to use graph paper. Other gardeners like to use online software or even build like a Excel spreadsheet. I've done that too. I'm very hands-on, tangible when it comes to paper. For whatever reason, that gets me more excited about the garden season when I can kind of sketch things out and then kind of have that paper plan to go back to. So whatever works for you when you're planning your garden, but this is what I enjoy doing. That is why I'm using these kind of old school tools here. My dog is dropping heavy Nyla bones around the room, so I don't know if that gets picked up on this mic or not, but okay. So my cement slab is a 12 by 12, I believe. Yeah, it's 12 by 12. I had to check some notes. And then I know from my back fence line over, it's approximately 4 feet. So yeah, so let's do 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oops, I think it was -1. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so and then 3, 4. Good. So I'm going to get this added in. And then hopefully, I think this is showing up for you guys okay. Like I said, I'll get some markers out and maybe some pens too. It is not unusual for me to make several of these sketches before I actually start gardening. And then, sure enough, when the season actually starts and I'm transplanting stuff, sometimes I just wing it. But at the very least, I do like to see if I can't make myself a good plan. So, okay, so this is my cement slab here. And then I've got my two 4x8. So it's going to be here. That's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. and then another one here. Okay, and then this past year I added a 2x8, lining it up here. So I'm gonna kind of pencil that one in here. And then it's approximately 2 feet. Yeah, I'd say about 2 feet between this garden bed and then my really long one. My long one is a 4x16. So let me go ahead and count those blocks out. All right, down to here. Go ahead and sketch that in here. I always have to be careful when I'm working with pencil because I drag my hand across. I have a tendency to drag the graphite across the paper. Okay, and then in front of each one of my garden beds, I do have a kind of a round bed here. They're not really beds; they're more like pots. They're probably about 2 feet long. They definitely take up most of the space in front of these metal beds. And I do have some grow pots as well, but I'm going to be moving those this year, so I'm not going to include them on this sketch. I am planning on moving those to my balcony garden, and the hopes that I can grow my herbs out of them. Oops. All right, so a couple things that I know are definitely going to be happening in the near future. I am going to be purchasing another one of these 2x8s, and I do plan on putting it along this fence line here. So I'm going to leave a gap here for a large pot that I have, and then I'm going to add the 2x8 here. So get to about here. So there we go. So we've got my 2x8s right there, and then outside of this space a little ways back, and obviously it's not going to be to scale, but I do have my other garden beds and then my pots. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch those right in here just so I have them on the same paper. And those are 2x4 beds. So I'll go ahead and add those here. And they're kind of rounded off. And I know this is not what they look like in the yard, but I'm just drawing them in this space so that I can take into account what I want to plant in them this year. The other things that are over with these are going to be 5 grow bags and 5 large pots. So I'm going to go ahead and just indicate them, not quite to scale, but just so that I have, again, taking into account what I'm going to plant in them, which I already know I'm going to plant potatoes and Romas. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now the big change between what I have, let me see if I can, like, let me see if I can't straighten this out more. All right, there we go. Okay, I think that's good. I hope that's good. Okay, so the big change is I am not going to have my 6x6 bed that I used to have. I'm going to tear that down. I'm going to replace it with other beds. And I'm looking at a few options. So I am actually thinking about picking up some beds that are like either maybe, I want them deep because it's on cement, so I want at least 17 to 2 feet deep beds. And I did see some on Amazon that I was interested in, but I might also look at other companies of doing kind of like a 3x4 type of size. But ideally, what I'm thinking would be kind of nice is either having beds this way or doing kind of a like a U shape here. So we'll come back to this here in a moment. I'm going to pull up a browser and look at some of the beds I'm thinking about to see what dimensions and sizes they are. And then another thing that we'll be doing is currently right now I only have one arch trellis between these two beds. I'm going to be adding a second one because if I kind of squeeze them together, I should be able to fit two. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that on here. Those are approximately 4 feet each in terms, 4 feet deep as far as width. So again, so we can kind of see here, there would be 2 arch trellises going through these beds. And then on this bed here, I have my long one that I plant my tomatoes on. So I'm gonna make that note there. And then there's a small chance I might do an arch trellis along this side, or I might do a smaller arch trellis here. Sorry, flat trellis. I might do a flat trellis here, or I might do an arch trellis here. And so I'm still on the fence about that. I'm going to think about that for just a moment. But let's take a look real fast at what I know, some of the stuff I know for sure where I'm going to plant. So let me grab some markers. I'm going to mark some of the things that I know for sure I'm going to grow. And I'm using the spreadsheet that I am created last time, and I'm probably not going to match the colors exactly to the varieties within the spreadsheet just because I don't have the perfect match of markers. That's okay. So I know for sure I'm going to be planting my tomatoes again on this back row. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw down my red. Oh, that's easy. Easy peasy. Tomato row. I'm also going to be doing Romas in 5 of my pots. So I'm going to go ahead and mark these. Now, just because I'm creating this doesn't mean I can't deviate when the time comes, because like I said, once I get the starts created and I start planting things, inevitably I always change things around. Let me go ahead and make a note. I'm just going to make kind of a key here for myself. Okay. So I know for sure I'm going to be planting my tomatoes there. I'm also going to be planting my peppers, both spicy and sweet, in this side. Reasoning why: the sun, my sun comes from this direction. So this is east, west, south, and north for me. So it comes, you can see that there on screen, right here. Sun comes from this side, sets, bulk of the sun comes this way. What I noticed last year was I grow things at vine on this trellis, and inevitably it shades out a little bit of what's growing in this space. Now, because it shades out a little bit in the afternoons, that actually works really well in the favor for peppers because it's going to help prevent a lot of that sun scalding that can happen. They're still going to get full sun, but they're not going to be, I don't think, as hit with direct sun as they could be in other places. Never grown peppers on this side. Well, that's not true. 2 years ago, I did some peppers, and they did well. But I'm gonna do it again on this side. And so let me go ahead and make a note here, and let's do spicy orange for peppers. Right now, I don't have anything in this bed, so let's go ahead and I'm gonna leave these spaces empty because that'll indicate what's growing on the trellis. So otherwise, this also helps me determine when I'm marking this in how much square space I have to dedicate to plants, so I can kind of get a feel for how many starts seeds I can actually start this year to fill in this space. Okay, so peppers, tomatoes, done. Perfect. This is where it gets a little tricky. So right now I technically have garlic planted. And so what I'm going to do to help with the transitions for some crops, I am going to use like a marking pattern to indicate, and then I'll color over it what I want to plant inevitably like later on in the season. So right now I have garlic. Let's see. I'm trying to think approximately how far into this bed it is. It's definitely that much. I think it's about to here. That's probably a little conservative, but that's approximately how much garlic I planted. And then according to my experience last year in growing garlic, which was my first year, that was harvested end of June, early July. So I'm looking for things. Let me take a quick look at my seed list here of things I could transplant or grow after that season that I know would do well. Let's see here. In years past, I would typically grow okra. Okra does really well there, so I think I'm just gonna keep that. I'm gonna keep with that theme of planting okra in garlic's place whenever it's done. So let's go ahead and add okra to our list here. And I'll use, I don't know what color I should use. I'll use this kind of slate gray. Oh, that's kind of darker than I thought it would be. Let me just, I don't want to completely cover up my X's here. Maybe I should have gone with a lighter color. Could have used colored pencils too. That probably would have been smart. Oh well. C'est la vie. Okay, so again, I will, let's actually make this a little bit easier for me to read. I'm using a black marker to indicate these little X's. And I'm going to do the same thing with onions, and I'm still trying to determine where to plant those. So we'll come back to that here in a moment. Now, I know, I marked this whole space okra. What ended up happening last year is I did do some bush beans along the edges, and that worked fine. I did that in a lot of my beds actually, and I'll probably keep that in mind moving forward. I don't know if I will do just a full bed of bush beans. I might, to get started, but then kind of do succession sowing of beans of beans later. But let's go ahead and move on. So we do have this open bed here, and we've got these beds along with these beds here. Now, what I'm envisioning for my 2 8-foot beds that that are gonna be relatively new, but I'm thinking of doing brassicas here for the sole reason of having smaller beds, having all my brassicas in one space. I can easily cover them with the insect netting, which was really vital for me to prevent the cabbage moths and the caterpillars and all of that. So I'm going to do that same thing, only I'm going to do it on this side. We will see how it does with this is a privacy fence here, so who knows. But I am going to go ahead and mark. Let me mark here cabbage. And I'm going to be growing a few different varieties, but I'm going to just color them all the same. We'll use this kind of teal green. And I'm going to go ahead and just set aside this bed completely for cabbages. All right, perfect. And then the other bed I could do, I think what I'm going to do is broccoli and cauliflower in it. And so I will go ahead and separate and broccoli. I may need to get colored pencils out if I run out of colors here. We'll do broccoli, this kind of lime green, and then I'll do my cauliflower, this pink. Why not? And I'm gonna go ahead and just probably split the bed. I don't know. I'm very much a visual person. I'm an artist at heart, and in my professional life, I do art. And so I'm thinking also when I plant things out, what looks the most visually stunning? But then also what is the most functional and practical? But I think I'm just going to split it. I may change my mind when I actually plant stuff out. So we'll see. There's been years in the past where I've tried to do designs with the way I plant things, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so we're going to split. This looks like a Dr. Mario pill or something here. All right. Great. So we got that. That looks great. Let's see, what else do we have that we need to find homes for? So we definitely are going to have some kale. We got our broccoli, cabbage. I'd like to do Brussels sprouts. I've never successfully grown Brussels sprouts, and I'm not really sure where to grow those yet. There's a small chance I might designate these. I'm going to designate one of these for sure for tomatillos. My tomatillos last year I grew in grow pots, and they were massive. They were huge. I had 2 of them. It was plenty. You need 2 at the very least for proper like pollination and everything to actually get the fruit. So I'm going to, I think, set aside one of these 2x4s for 2 tomatillos. So let's go ahead and make a note. And we'll just throw this blue down to represent them. And now I've got my tomatillos set aside. Now it leaves me with another 2x4. So here I'm wondering, I don't know, I've never grown Brussels sprouts. How many plants do I need to actually have a decent harvest of Brussels sprouts? Do I designate this whole thing for Brussels? That is the question. That is the question. Okay, let's come back to that. Let's circle back on that one later, as they say. Okay, so other things that we still need to think about: my onions, my leeks, herbs. Like I said, I'm gonna try to move my herbs up on my back deck. The reason being because I discovered that the herbs that were out in the garden, I tended to not use as much as I should have in the kitchen. And so I'm thinking if I have it on my back deck, which is right next to my dining room and kitchen, I think I will utilize them a lot more. So I'm not going to worry about finding homes for herbs out here quite yet. Not to say that I won't do some companion planting, but I will plant the bulk of them up on the back deck. Things I still need to plant out, though, like I said, onions, leeks, kale, Swiss chard, spinach. So a lot of greens. I need to think through where I want to plant those. Lettuces, bok choy, broccoli rabe, arugula, my root vegetables, so carrots, radishes, turnips, and then of course my squashes, my cucumbers, and any kind of gourds I'm going to be growing too. So let's go ahead. Oh, and I'm going to do corn again this year. Here's what I'm thinking for corn, and I think it's going to work better. Last year I tried to grow it here. I tried to grow it in grow pots. That did not work at all. I'm wondering if I could get success here, because this gets hit directly with sun really, really, really well. So I think I'm going to do a whole bunch of corn right in here. So let's go ahead and add that. I'm going to do bright yellow for corn. And same thing here, I'll leave the interior ones to designate what will go on the trellis. And my yellow is just about out of juice here. That's okay. All right, so corn has a home. Trellis. Let's think through what has been successful, what hasn't. Cucumbers were successful. What I'd like for things to be successful with would be some of the squash plants. So one thing I'm going to do differently that I did last year, I grew my like autumn squash, butternut squash. I grew that back here. I took a couple feet and grew butternut squash. I'm going to go ahead and move that to the main trellis. And then I have some other squash varieties that I have picked up that I want to try that are vining. So I purchased the Zucchino Rampasante. Wow. Rampasante. It's supposed to be vine borer resistant. That's one of the reasons why I got it. So loofah, I did not have success last year, so I'd like to try that again. And then I also purchased Kukuzi, which is supposed to be vine borer resistant. Let's designate a line item for gourds. And I think I've got maybe some other beigey colors here I could maybe play around with. Yeah, let's use this one. It's kind of like a purpley blue. So let's do like one-sided gourds maybe? Or do I want to maybe even them out? Probably want to even them out. So I'm going to go ahead and do like a couple on each side here. And then, yeah, that'll give me some more room to experiment with some other things. So I've tried doing melons in this space, never had success. I don't think I'm going to do them again in this space next year or this year. But I do have, I don't know, I've got some other squash plants that I wouldn't mind trying. So I purchased the Long Island cheese pumpkin, which is another vine borer resistant pumpkin. So I'm wondering if I should try and get that to climb up. So I think I'm gonna make space for some vining squash. Let's see. I'm starting to forget which ones I've used and which ones I haven't. Over here with my marker stash. Oh, it's not a very good yellow. Let's go with something different. Let's do purple. All right, so let's do a couple of vining squash. Obviously, when I start planting these out, I may have to deviate from this and give them more space. I have a tendency to overplant with the thought that insects might decimate, but let's go ahead and leave that as it is. And then the other thing I wanted to do, which I had a lot of success with, were pole beans climbing up. And so let's do light blue. All right, and this might be too much space for the pole beans. So again, we'll probably adjust this, but just knowing, basically I'm going to have some long beans, pole beans growing in here. I'm going to have some vining squash and then some gourds on the back end of this particular space. I think is good enough for now. Okay, so I did a little bit of research onto some of the beds. Found the bed that I was kind of interested in on Amazon. It's hypothetically kind of a really good deal right now. $120 for a pack of two is probably pretty good. A little concerned there's no there's no reviews on them, so obviously I'm not at a point right now where I need to purchase beds or I want to purchase beds. I am going to still kind of shop around and try to find a good deal and some good reviews on them. But I did kind of like this 2-pack of the 6x3x2. Like I said, whatever I put here, I want it to be deeper than 1 foot because this is a concrete slab. I just want to make sure that whatever I'm growing in these garden beds has plenty of soil and nutrients so that they can thrive. So I'm going to go ahead and plan with the thought of these 6x3x2 beds. And then obviously if I find something different, I can kind of like adjust that plan in the future. So sort of similar to what I mentioned earlier, I kind of like the idea of doing like a horseshoe shape here. So if these beds are 6x3, let's do 1, 2, 6. Let's add, so that's, yeah, so these are 6x3s right here. That would take up that whole, I mean, that would fit just perfectly on this slab. And then I could do another set, 6, like this, which gives just kind of a really nice, I think, working space. This gives me plenty of space to walk through from one side to the other side of the garden. Also important for the dogs because they love to run circles and chase each other around. So I think this would be really nice space. I also think this gives me opportunities for some of the pots. So if I don't want to use all my grow pots up on my back deck, I do have other pots that I grew peppers in this year. I could hypothetically put them like right in here, to grow miscellaneous things in this space too. So I want to try to keep at least a 2-foot working distance between beds. And then with something like this, I do wonder if it would be possible to add another arch trellis. Obviously, this is 4 feet apart. This would be 6 feet apart. So I don't know. I don't know if that would be too much or not. If that would pull it down too far. So it's something I could think about. Like I said, I would like to experiment with more trellises this year. Like I said, maybe putting one on this back side so when these get harvested, I could plant cucumbers, another round of cucumbers or something like that. But let's go ahead and leave these beds as they are, and then I'll brainstorm on whether or not I want to add some kind of trellising in here later. Okay, so if we have these beds, that gives me plenty more space to grow some of the things that are still on our list. Let me find here what we're missing. So I've got some melons, I've got cucumbers, and then I've got my other types of squash. So that would be like my zucchini. I've got a couple other pie pumpkins that I'll probably try to grow as well. Probably not on the, I don't know if I want to grow them all on a trellis. I just don't know yet. The other thing I have to keep in mind is this back side doesn't get, it gets decent sun, but it doesn't get, I would say, the strongest sun, whereas a lot of this stuff up front is going to get stronger sun. So I think having my lettuce greens, my salad greens back here would do well. In the past, in my other bed that I've had here, I have grown carrots without any issue. I've grown leeks. I've grown cabbages technically back there, kale. So I think this gives me a lot of flexibility in terms of what I could look to do. So let's play around for a second. Let me brainstorm here. Maybe these would be a good space to do my kale and Brussels sprouts and, like I said, my lettuce greens and all of my greens really. Let's see here. What makes the most sense? This is a lot more growing space than what I'm used to having, so this is exciting. Just trying to figure out how to fill it up. Also need to think about onions. So let's do this. Let's do the idea of, I'm just going to use my pencil at first here before I start actually coloring anything in. If I set aside these for some different kales, that's going to give me plenty of kale growing footprint, probably too much kale footprint. So let's do like kale, and then I could do a row of Brussels. Again, I don't know how many Brussels I need. And I also will have some broccoli rabe. So I could do Brussels, broccoli rabe, kale, do a row of kale here. Or should I keep it all to one bed? Again, if I've got cabbage moths and whatnot, it is easier to cover one space than to cover multiple spaces. But I'm also thinking visually what will look really pretty. And then I have to think too, if these beds are butting up against each other, whatever's going to be in these corners are going to be, you'd have to come around and pick. So I'm thinking also staggering things in height might be a good idea. Yeah, I'm wondering if I should do like all my carrots and roots back here. So this will take a while to grow in. And then I can do my lettuce greens kind of here. So really easy to pick. Then when these are ready to pick, I can come around back and pick them as needed. I kind of like that. So let's designate. I want to try to do a lot of lettuce and greens this year because I neglected to do much last year and I kind of was disappointed in that. But I still need to leave room for my melons and some of these other miscellaneous things, squash plants. So obviously the kale's going to be picked later on in the summer. Same with the Brussels and the broccolini. So these will be replaced, I think, with squash plants. So I'm going to just make an indication here that, make a note. That's good. And then, like I said, let's go ahead and we can mark some of this down before I change my mind. Try to find a new color. Okay, soft pink. So I'm going to use the soft pink to indicate my root vegetables. All right. And we'll just see. Again, this might be way too much space allocated for them, and I might change my mind, but it gives me something to go off of. So, okay, and then the other big one that we need to mark, and like I said, I think I'm gonna have to get creative with my colors here. Let's go ahead and do greens. I'm gonna do this brown, Ronic brown for greens. Almost looks like it's orange. I'm very much a visual person, so it really helps for me to like color block in where I want some of this stuff. Because otherwise, I don't know. Last year I tried to do a little bit more of what you call like chaotic gardening, and it was okay. It was fun, but I kind of like having a plan. So I think if I can have this and kind of like be okay with changing it and deviating from it, but also knowing like, okay, this is how many starts I need to create for this particular variety, also helps a lot. So, okay, so we've got greens, we've got roots. I'm gonna go ahead and designate, we're gonna designate this as, we have cabbage and cauliflower. Let me just do kale, and then we need Brussels, and technically broccolini. I don't know. Maybe I could even put that in the broccoli, but we'll go ahead and separate it for now. But I might be out of marker colors. So let's get some colored pencils. Okay, if I had thought through this better, I would have used colored pencils from the beginning, but that's all right. Live and learn. Okay, so kale, and what colors could we got a lot of colors to choose from, so I'll just go ahead and pick something. Go with this kind of turquoise. Right. Yeah. I'm already having like doubts here. These edges, a lot of times the squash plants are nice, planted on edges of beds because they can trail over. So we'll see. I may, like I said, I'm probably going to change my mind at least once with all of this. And let's go ahead and do the same thing that we did earlier. Just color that so that I definitely know what that is. Okay, so we got kale. Let's go ahead and indicate my Brussels sprouts. Once I have a better grasp at when these things will be harvested, I'll also have an idea if I can expand some of the succession sowing within these areas. Okay, I need another color for my broccolini. Green. Okay. So at least at the very least, if this gets hit by cabbage moths, I can kind of cover it. The kale, I'll just hand pick. Last year, I didn't have that much of an issue with my kale getting hit. It was mostly my cabbages, and honestly, the squirrels were the worst culprit out of everything. they picked a lot of my starts out, and I have a plan for that this year. But anyways, okay, so this leaves this spot and that spot. Now I'm thinking I'm gonna go ahead and, this isn't a big space, but I think I'm gonna plant my onions out here. So let me go ahead and make a note. Do onions. I think we're gonna have a cat join us. Hey Finn, what's up, buddy? I have to ask you to move, mister. Normally you guys see the dogs in the videos, but not when we're inside. We get a cat instead. Sorry, bud. All right. Okay, onions. We'll use this orange color, and I will go ahead and fill this in. This gives me an idea of how many onions I can start, because I'm actually going to be starting those in the next week or two. All right, perfect. Okay, and then this space, let's see, we talked about melons. I think that's the next, like, last really big thing. Let's see what color would be good for that. Oh, all right, let's throw in a purple. Okay. All right. Great. Gives me a really good spot. So obviously we have some blank spots still. This here, these little planter boxes, this and these. Now, I already know what I want to plant in these. I am going to be doing my potatoes in grow bags this year. Last year I did them in this garden bed, and it was a chore to dig them out. So I'm going to do them in grow bags because I think that's going to be way easier to harvest. So let's go ahead and make a note here. Okay, potatoes. Here we go. And then I said I'm going to use all 5 of these. I think it's going to be great. I need to figure out just how many they're, gosh, are they 15-gallon grow bags, I think? I'll have to double check, but I'll need to see how many potatoes would do well in those. Okay, so that's great. And this I have an idea for. I am growing, every year I grow ground cherries. I think I'm going to usually I grow them in pots on my patio. I'm wondering if I should go ahead and just grow them in this space, give them their own space, because I purchased a lot of new flower seeds this year, and I kind of want to designate my pots for flowers. So let's go ahead and make a note to do ground cherries. They're also hit by the squirrels, so if I grow them in this space, I might be able to cover them to prevent those little stinkers from picking all of my produce. Awesome. Okay, great. Okay, so this is again very rough. Back here is just mulched. I might try to grow sunflowers back here again. The dogs run through here. Sorry, this isn't on camera. The dogs run through here. They do this lap where they go down, down, around, up, and they chase each other. Last year I tried to grow sunflowers and they just got toppled. So may or may not try that again. We'll see. If I can get them covered, I might be able to protect them long enough. Otherwise, it's just a mulched space, so we don't have to mow. I might just leave it as it is. Again, I do have some additional pots that I might, if I go with this layout, I might just put them in here and add some additional things. What those things are, I'm not sure. They're not very big pots, so they would have to be maybe, again, maybe some herbs or flowers. Flowers would probably be great to just include scattered throughout. And then same thing with here and here. These are all spaces that I would like to use for flowers. And I'm just now realizing I don't have cucumbers anywhere on here. Definitely need to add cucumbers. Let's add the cucumbers to this trellis for now. Let me go ahead and we're going to do pole beans. So I'm going to go ahead and separate. Let's do a darker color so I can cover that up. Maybe is this a color that'll work? Okay, so let's do. Oh, it almost looks just like the Finding Squash color next to it. That's okay. I know what it is. Okay, there we go. So cucumbers are accounted for. And then what I'll do too is I'm just going to make a quick note here for flowers. Go ahead and use pink for that. So I'd really like to experiment with flowers more this year, and just having them kind of throughout. So I'll just kind of like do this as an indication of if I've got the space, maybe. Technically I could fit another like 4x2 bed in here. I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. I think I need to get these beds first, get them set up, and then see how this space feels first, and then determine how else I can transform this space. So, because now I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool to have like a green stalk in here, and I could spin it and grow things, but one thing at a time. One thing at a time. Okay, so this is pretty good. For now, like I said, I do have a patio space with some pots, but I'm going to designate those for flowers. And then I've got my back deck, which I will be growing all of my herbs, hypothetically, ideally. And some of the things that weren't added to this that obviously I'll need to take into account, bush beans. So I think those are small enough and easy enough to kind of grow along the border and edging of some of these beds. So I'm just going to maybe just make a note here. Bush beans. And I'll just say plant border. So I'll kind of like tuck those away in spaces I feel like would be a good fit for them. Other than that, I think most of everything I have on my list is accounted for. Like I said, it's one of those things, especially because I purchased so many new varieties this year. I won't know until I know. I won't know until I know when we get to it, if I have the space to grow it or not. And then some of these things obviously will be harvested out. So for example, the cauliflower and cabbages and all of that, these will come out in the middle of summer. And so I will need to figure out what do I want to plant in those in the place. One thing I think will probably work well, and I'll go ahead and just mark it, is a late planting of summer squash. We get squash bug and vine borer real bad. So I did notice that I had my most successful harvest of squash this past year late summer. So if, keeping that in mind, I could do a late planting here. Same with another planting here. Otherwise, I don't know if I want to try zucchini and yellow squash early on or not. It's really hit or miss. So we'll see. But yeah, this is great. I am excited. This gets me excited for the growing season. Definitely, again, going back to knowing how much space I'm allocating for each variety will help me as I get ready to start some of these seeds. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone for hanging in with me today. I know this was a little unconventional, a little different. I thought it would be fun to show you my process of how I plan my garden every year. Like I said, this is just a springboard. I will not be held to it, 100%, but at least I know roughly where things are going to go. Hopefully you guys are making your own plans. Let me know in the comments down below how you like to plan for your garden. Do you like to draw out your beds, or are you more of a app user, or make a spreadsheet or whatever, or do you just kind of wing it? Love to hear from you. Until next time, we'll be starting onions very, very, very soon, so stay tuned. Thanks again, and good luck out in your garden.